Thank you. Thank you. Greetings, everybody. Welcome. Hope everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not too great at this yet, so we're working on it. But again, hope everybody has a good night, good day. Living life, loving life, still working out kinks. All right. And welcome, brother.
Hey there, wizard. Like you said, I won't be here for long. I'm pretty much ready for the nighttime,
It's been a long day.
But I wanted to show some of my support, so I'm here. Glad you are.
Yeah, me too. I've been on a hard journey the last few months, but as I've expressed to everybody, I'm in remission and gradually moving off the couch, and I have been able to sleep flat on my back in the bed here the last month. So everything's slowly progressing better and better.
Good. So, you sure are looking a lot better. It's good to see.
Yes, feeling better. I have got to find this video here first. Don't know what I did with it. So let me go back and grab it. Okay. Go all the way back to the beginning. Get my screen share up, and we are ready to go, folks. The thing we're going to view is not the same topic that we generally discuss on the panels that I've been on so far. So we're going to go through it. Like I said, it's a motivational video that I got from Daily Motivation is the name of the channel. Just put in Daily Motivation. It should come up. If not, I'll post a link later on. And what it's talking about is more of the esoteric things. And for anybody that does get into them, it's basically talking about the language and vibrations and how things work in the quantum physics and this and that. And I don't know if this is the right one yet.
Simply something so that you could arrange the aspects of the...
Yes. Okay, so we are on the right track. Let me know if there's any problem with the videos and stuff. And hopefully we'll have another successful review tonight.
Art on the wall, it actually had a vibrational component to it. It is used by us today in modern Egyptian biogeometry to be able to test vibrational qualities for any person, place, or thing to a very, very deep level.
So what they're finding is that shape has a lot.
Here's one of the great secrets of ancient Egypt, another old
as we already know,
connected to the Shakti concept of the Himalayan tradition.
But what it
actually does is it is the carrier wave that sends all the other energies. It was found by the French it could penetrate thicknesses of lead that could not be penetrated by X-rays. And so they were fascinated by it. And so in applying the negative green carrier wave energy, it is what inside the physical body actually moves the energy from one location to another, makes the organs work. And it also sends things from one system to another system. It is what conducts the energy in the energy meridians of the body, like the acupuncture meridians from the Chinese tradition. It is the foundation of sexual energy and vitality in the body. At the emotional and mental level, it breaks down resistance, opening up the blocked psychological aspects of a person to open to massive shifts in one's life and brings subconscious blockages into awareness. At the spiritual level, it actually conducts the energy from higher plane levels into the human physical body. And the more spiritual activity a person does, blessing, prayer, meditation, etc., the stronger this vibration is from their energetic field.
And that's where we get the power from, folks. It's the spiritual energy. It's what I've been telling everybody all along. That's the only way we get any kind of energy. And that's why people get triggered on these panels and stuff, is they feel it as a negative energy. And so our communications have to be positive, and we have to quit calling people names and stuff and put out that projective, positive message, no matter what it is, no matter how hard it is to express. And this is one of those things I'm even working on. You saw me go off on Z today, and I don't like doing it that way. But at the time, it's just the way it hit me. And so I will get over it eventually. I hope you guys will see that growth. And I expect the same in everybody else. We're full-grown men and women now.
All of our modern technology is based on cracking two codes: the code of the spectrum of electromagnetic energy and the code of the spectrum of physical matter. We call the spectrum of physical matter the periodic table of elements, based on the work of Mendeleev in the late 1800s in Russia. Now, once we cracked the code where we identified every aspect of electromagnetic energy and every part of physical substance in the world, at that point, they could put the two together. So all of our modern technology is based on knowing what exact elements from the periodic table to match with what frequencies from the electromagnetic spectrum. And that's what makes your cell phone work. That's what makes the lights work at your house, what makes your car run. Everything is based on a combination of these two things. But as we often describe in the work of biogeometry, what they left out was the focus of every classical tradition, because it's only been the last couple of hundred years that modern science and medicine has only focused on the physical plane. Before that, every classical tradition focused on the level of vital life force and higher consciousness above the physical, and they manipulated those energies to be able to do things on the physical plane. They actually worked at the causative level above the physical that actually gives rise to the physical level itself. Today, we manipulate the physical directly, the physical and the electromagnetic. There's often a confusion about vital life force being electromagnetic energy, and I don't believe that's actually the case. I think the best solution to this was given by the great Rosicrucian teacher Rudolf Steiner, where he described the way that the vital life force, which is the foundation of every classical scientific and healing system, is at a level above the physical. And that is like what was referred to as scalar waves by Nikola Tesla.
I didn't believe any of this until 2019. I had an experience that blew my mind and turned my world upside down for the better. But yeah, prior to 2019, I would have said this is all bullshit. It's crazy. And here I am today. This is definitely true. You're muted again, Wiz.
The little machine that you saw on the desk there, that's what we're dealing with now is scalar waves. It's that's more like electric waves, but it also has wands that you can attach to it and use the light waves. It's got all kinds of frequencies you can use, so I could use the scalar waves on that if I had the right implements. Right now it's just two little anodes, and I just hook them up to my wrist and run the frequencies. And
I think I think I know what you're talking about. But what is that thing called again?
This one here, this device is called a GB4000, and it's oh, what did they call them? Oh, it's running a blank on me. I smoked too much today. I'll admit that. But there's a specific name for it, and what it does is it puts out various different resonant frequencies, and you can program your own frequencies according to what your needs are. And so I've got mine programmed to my cell health structure, the lungs, various different things. And I run through a gamut of them on a regular basis just to try to help out.
Obviously it's working.
Well, it's that's it, damsel. The Rife machine. Look up RIFE, Rife machine. And basically, I use that, but there's also other things. That alone has been given credit for dispelling cancer. Apricot seeds alone have been said to dispel cancer. Rick Simpson oil, various different things. Ivermectin, fenbendazole, which is a animal dewormer. DMSO, all kinds of things that have now, by their own, are known to dispel cancer. There are many stories out there of all the different various methods people are now using, aside from radiation and chemotherapy. And right now, that's what I'm doing. But I get what they call immunization, intravenous immunity vitamins, and they give me a high dose of vitamins, and that's all it is, once every 3 weeks. And I've got 4 sessions in me, and we don't know if we're going to need any more. They're going to do an MRI on the 30th, and we'll go from there. But absolutely in remission and gaining more strength and energy and weight. So we'll see.
Good.
Here, energies from the vibrational level, referred to as the etheric in the Greek tradition, referred to as qi in the Chinese tradition, ki in Japan, prana in India, etc. Every tradition had a name for it. That energy penetrates down into the physical and animates physical substance. The human physical body without this is a corpse. It animates physical substance, but in so doing, it slows down below the speed of light and begins to disintegrate. As it disintegrates, it gets to be retarded Hertzian waves, as described by Tesla, and becomes the electromagnetic spectrum. So the problem is that we've created a new technology that's very powerful for manipulating physical structures, but does not take into account what the effect of the vibrations from these are on actual living beings, because the actual living aspect of biological life has been stripped out of modern biology. You're not allowed to describe it. If you try to talk about life force in modern biology, they will say that you are a victim of the vitalist fallacy, and they will have nothing to do with you.
Yeah. About
Knowledge, thousands of years of observations and particular techniques in Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Mayan healing, all types of traditions all over the world have been completely cast out. But
and this is what I was talking about earlier with the various different methods of curing cancer. They're finding out that all these ancient cultures had various different methods of the exact same thing, recognizing that what they call chi energy and being able to transmute it. That's all it is.
now, with having identified in modern times the electromagnetic and physical spectrums, the French succeeded in identifying the vibrational spectrum, the level connected to the vital life force itself. And that became a foundation for the creation of modern biogeometry. Now, some of this was connected to the knowledge in ancient Egypt, but it's in a new form. Dr.
You guys catch that? That was the beginnings of biology, biogeometry. That was the very beginning of learning about self.
Ibrahim Karim demonstrated that through applying a simple geometric form to biological life, he could change the life functions in a biological system through very simple geometric forms. And one of the big discoveries of Dr. Karim is that one thing identified is that the French vibrational spectrum of the 12 bands, each of these bands has a very particular power. And that power is a polarized power. Some are more yin, some are more yang. Some are more activating, some are more sedating. But he said there's another power, and that is the power that is beyond polarity. That is the power of the original singularity, of the original center, the energy of the unified source of all creation that is beyond polarity, where everything is one. And so then he began to apply these vibrational methods that the French had pioneered in modern times, based on their inspiration from ancient Egypt. And he then found a way to be able to identify the vibrational characteristic of that energy of the center, of that original unified source, the energy that harmonizes and balances all living energy systems, not through applying an opposite polarity for polarity balancing, but by directly activating the center itself. And he found that one of the hallmarks of that vibration from the center is a gold vibration. And that classical traditions consider this gold vibration to be the source of physical gold. Physical gold, as everything in the physical plane, is a crystallization into physical matter of a subtle vibration from a higher level. And so all of these references and different traditions, the Taoists, the Christians, the ancient Egyptians talking about the gold, was not a metaphor, it's quite literal. So when a person does advanced spiritual work, the saints develop the golden aura around their head and their body because they're in resonance with the center. They're in resonance with the original unified source. And so Dr. Karim took his work further and was able to identify some of the secrets of ancient Egypt through this vibrational science that he developed and called biogeometry. One of the aspects of this is that different geometric forms, based on the shape caused wave, create different energetic effects. But there's a deeper level behind that, and that is different geometric forms actually resonate with different levels of creation, or what Dr. Karim calls planes of nature. So this is a form that we use an advanced level of biogeometry called the Ibrahim Karim Universal Pendulum. And it actually combines shapes of multiple different plane levels: the physical, the vital, the emotional astral, the mental, the causal, the spiritual, and the divine levels that all have particular geometries that resonate with them. This means that by using the correct geometric form, the ancient Egyptians understood they could create a direct resonant exchange, like with an antenna, based on the sacred geometry. Sacred geometry became an antenna to resonate with a particular higher plane. So, for example, if we take a look at this level, what in the human being is the emotional body and emotional function, and referred to as an outer plane in the Western tradition as the astral plane. Astral coming from a root aster, meaning star, meaning a source of light. And the forms that connect to that are the form of a hemisphere or a pyramid. So when they use the form of a pyramid, it wasn't just for pyramid power as an energy, but what pyramid power actually is the negative green ray that was identified by the French, the penetrating carrier ray. That comes from this particular form. Both a hemisphere and a pyramid create that negative green emanation. But the reason why that form is creating the emanation is because the shape itself acts like an antenna for the astral plane. And that's why they knew further that by modifying the shape on the pyramid, by making a slight indentation in the center of the four faces of the pyramid, it's so slight you can't see it from the ground. You have to see it from the air. And from the air, you can see here the slight indentation, the faces of the pyramids at Giza Plateau. What that did is it changed the resonance of the pyramid from the general astral plane, where the lower astral has some questionable.
Are you sick of having issues with your webinars, wasting tons of time on troubleshooting with attendees?
Energetics to resonate with the higher astral. And when you do that, it cleans up the energy that's being projected by the pyramid. So one of the great secrets is the geometries act like antennas to resonate with higher planes of creation. And then as a secondary effect, they will emanate through the shape-caused wave a particular vibration that is the result of that particular connection. And they knew enough about it, in fact, to work not just with the general negative green ray, as we see here, but actually to work with sub-bands or sub-energies inside the general band.
Hey, Wizard,
so the
can I say
placement
something?
of the king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid is not in the exact.
Well, for one, I'm going to probably hop off here in a minute, but for another, I noticed Tribe's kind of a naysayer down there. I would definitely not. I would open your mind just a little bit, because I believe that there's a lot of stuff coming. Something happened to me in 2019 that I can't explain, and trying to explain a subjective experience, I'm not even going to try tonight. But let's just say that there's a lot of truth to this. And if you don't keep your mind open and think about the possible or spiritual aspects of this, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that might make you think that what's happening to your body is caused from an external source versus an internal happening. So again, I think it's very important to take this with at least a grain of salt, but consider that there is some truth to it instead of just outright saying there isn't anything to it. Because again, I believe what happened to me in 2019 is it's inevitably going to happen to everybody. And there's going to be a lot of fear stemming from it if you think that that's coming from an external source. Right. That's all I have to say. I hope you have a great night, Wizard. It's been great. I've enjoyed my time today, and I hope you have a good evening.
Yes, thank you, brother. Thanks for joining us up on panel. And I would certainly hope everybody else would. I'll drop the link again if it's not there, but I'm sure you can go up in the chat and find it. So please join me on panel if you would. And again, much appreciated. Well received, Horde. God bless. And yeah, I'm the same way. And I mentioned it in the comment section that I'm not as knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff here, that we're discussing right now in regards to history yet, but there might be a day where I am. Until then, I kind of got to give kudos to the guy because he does seem to know more than I have, and I'm learning from him. So I've got to give him that. So we will go there, and if there ever comes a time where I can dismiss what he's telling me about history, I'll do that. But you all know me. I like the truth, and so far I haven't found anything wrong with the way he's explaining this.
Middle, where you might expect it to be. It's not in the middle. It's about 6 degrees, 15 minutes off of center. And so that's to get a particular carrier wave within the negative green band. That's a sweet spot in the entire band, a sweet spot for being able to connect a person through a carrier wave to higher dimensional levels, which is why that place in the King's Chamber was used for these initiation rituals, as described by the Freemasons and others. And now let's talk a little bit about exactly how it works. So this is the vertical and horizontal wave pendulums. For each of the bands, the energy may either propagate parallel to the Earth's surface, we call it a horizontal wave, or it can move perpendicular, and we call that a vertical wave. They create different biological effects. And so we have two different pendulums to be able to detect it, and they're fairly simple to use. And this not only can be used for design purposes, to design things that have this strong vibration to them, it also can be used to test things that naturally have this energy. So what makes a spiritual power spot in nature is that it has a strong concentration of this universal harmonizing force, the BG3. Every classical tradition is the guardian of particular places on the Earth's surface that are their spiritual power spots. And now you can tell a true power spot from a false one that's been falsely claimed to be one, is that it has a strong concentration of this BG3 vibration if it's a true power spot. In the microcosm of a human body, those power spots appear as the chakras, acupuncture points, cells of the body, all of which naturally have this BG3 energy as well. And this connects to all types of energetic functions, and we primarily focus on it for healing work, but what it's actually doing is it's restoring a natural balance and resonance. The reason that we have this feeling of dis-ease is because we're no longer in resonance with the higher source that is supposed to be supporting the functions of the body. That's way beyond the consciousness of most people, but every classical tradition was aware of it, and they had to restore that connection. So in the ancient Egyptian mysteries, they understood about the importance, let's say, of the heart. And so there are particular biosignatures for the heart that not only have a effect at a more gross physical vitality level, it also has effects on human consciousness. For example, the place of the sinoatrial node or the sinus node, the master pacemaker of the body, is actually the place understood by the ancient Egyptians and by Sufi traditions today as the place that higher vibrational forces resonate in the human physical body and restore our connection to higher sources. Years ago, I had a very serious car accident, serious damage to my neck and my spine, had a hard time just being able to move around. And through the use of the correct bionumeral alteration of a biosignature, it gave me back my quality of life. And when you change the numerical sequencing of the patterns, then actually changes the level that the pattern is vibrating with. Now, for practical work, one of the major things that we teach people is harmonizing electromagnetic fields. Dr. Karim actually demonstrated that he could harmonize the electromagnetic fields in entire small cities in a project in Switzerland in 2003. And we have various types of tools that we can use to create energetic effects. This biogeometry cube, well, the cube creates a strong concentration of this BG3 harmonizing force in an environment. The Hamburg emitter was used in the Swiss project. This allows us actually to set this up and to target distant sources of electromagnetic disturbance, cell towers, things of that kind, and to actually transmute it from the distant source. Within a location itself, things like the space harmonizer will help to create a balanced energy within the location. The outdoor stand is used in the earth itself to balance and harmonize the energies in the earth. Now, one of the really fascinating things is the concept of balancing brain hemispheres. One aspect of it has to do with the basic concept of a toroidal flow of energy. Now, one of the things that I learned over 30 years ago, based on my work in the US Marine Corps as a nuclear biological chemical warfare specialist, that then led to my studying geometric forms in biology, chemistry, and physics, and then into the work of finding the same patterns in classical traditions for healing and spiritual development, is that whenever you start working in a body of work and people start talking about a torus structure, and they start talking about vortex patterns, you should pay attention, because these are core energetic patterns that all creation are based on. So if you get a sphere, open it up top and the bottom, and get energy to move through the center, now the center of the sphere that connects to the original unified source and the periphery of the sphere that connects to the entire vibrational spectrum are constantly circulating together. Connect to the unified source going through the channel, go out to the created world on the perimeter, and now you've got a sphere that has a perfect energy circulation. That is the form of the energy field around a human body. It's the form of an energy field around phenomena from the microscopic up to the galactic. This is a very important energy circulation pattern. And the exact center of that is the channel through the center of the sphere that's in the form of a hyperbola. Hyperbola is kind of like an hourglass. And so there is a particular creation pattern that you see Dr. Karim has put into form here, where it's two hyperbola. And in the human energy field, this actually operates as one that goes through the central axis of the body. And that's what he refers to as the spiritual axis. And then there's the time-space axis that runs more on the horizontal axis through the body. Again, this gets involved, and I can't go through the whole thing right now. Just want to give you a basic idea. And so a bulge appears on one of these because when the independent being begins to perceive within space-time, it creates an expansion from the center outward, and it creates the bulge you see here. Now, what this leads to then is that Dr. Karim found that there was a resonance when he broke the two forms apart to be two pillars. Sometimes he refers to them as the pillars of wisdom. This one here, without the bulge, without the space-time perception, resonates very strongly with the right brain hemisphere and the intuitive perception of a human being. The one with the space-time perception that grounds things into physical reality has the bulge coming out from the center from space-time perception. That's connected to the rational faculties of the left brain. Dr. Karim then added our biogeometry dials to the top that allows us to tune in different vibratory powers. So what you can do with this is you can actually tune any person's brain hemispheres to specific vibratory states. So one of the things that we demonstrate is that if you activate the person's visual cortex in their brain in properly tuning it in with this tool, what you can then do is from the visual cortex, you can fill it with the BG3 unified source vibration, and anything the person looks at will immediately harmonize with BG3 energy. They will become a harmonizing force straight through the visual ray coming out of the eyes.
And this is why I don't want to yell. I want to have a harmonic voice. I want to be able to induce into other people the good works. I want to be able to inflect that spirituality so that when they turn around, that spirituality still exists and goes forth. Just like feeding a man for a day by giving him a fish. But if you teach him, he learns how to feed himself for a lifetime. But if you teach him right, he turns around and teaches others.
This is going into then practical things that they would do in the Egyptian temples with modern techniques. Now, these earth energy grids are themselves connected to the whole vibrating matrix of the earth. And so one of the major things that Dr. Karim went into at this conference that got super deep is this concept then of what we described before about the toroidal energy structures of space-time that we use in the advanced training for tuning the human brain hemispheres. He connected that up with the vibrating matrix of all of the energy grids on the earth. And then looking at how that manifests once again as the space-time wormhole, which we have here, and then the mental spiritual wormhole here in the central axis of the torus around the human energy field. And then he began to go into very deep levels about how human beings are anchored into space-time through entire structures of these toroidal fields, back and front vortices in hyperbolas in the inside of the torus, and that is the foundation of all of the chakras of the human body. With then, just like in cosmological structures, you have the hyperbola, you have the vortex coming from two different directions, like at the chakras, and in between it, you get the spinning disk of BG3 energy, just like you see in cosmological structures. Is this applicable to one life cycle or several lives? This is an entire pattern of the vibrational template for a person's incarnation to root them into space-time. He then took that further and talked about the way that we materialize things from the higher planes into physical space-time through structures of this kind, which then are replicated microcosmically inside the human body. And so, again, there's expansion and collapse with the BG3 field in the central disk. This becomes an entire cosmological structure and also leads to the concept of the gates. So when they describe
the concept of the gates, remember, folks, this is all still conceptual, because you have to be able to conceive it. You have to be able to perceive it. You have to be able to use your, as Jack says, get out of your imagination. You need to be able to go into your imagination. You have to be able to define whether your imagination could be real or is impossible. And a lot of times people think things are impossible when they're not. I mean, look at the pyramids. This is exactly what they're talking about.
The ancient Egyptian tradition about the multiple.
An official message from Medicare. Turning 65 comes with questions like, how do I enroll in Medicare? What if I'm still working?
Sorry
Where do
about
I
the ad,
start?
folks.
Get your questions answered at Medicare.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
We're reinventing our network so you can deliver even more to your customers.
Gates you pass through in the Duat, or the underworld, in the higher dimensional worlds. This gates exist within the center of the toroidal movement, because the entire structure of movements in space-time and outside of space-time from one dimension to another are all based on the same template. Whether it's in your energy field or in great dimensional structures, it's the same pattern replicated at higher and higher levels and higher scales. It's what in sacred geometry we call scale invariance. And so this means then that our brain structure and our ability to perceive higher spiritual realities and things of that kind are a resonance between the structures that affect our brain hemispheres and the same structure at a higher level of construction elsewhere in space-time in the movement through these dimensional gates. And so that's the concept in the ancient traditions, including very much in ancient Egypt, of initiation, of being able to travel through the gates. If you read the ancient Egyptian text that we have translated in modern times with the name that it did not have in ancient Egypt, which is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, its name in the original Egyptian is closer to the Book of Coming Forth into Light. That particular text talks about passing through all these gates in the afterlife that lead to all of these different attainments and different experiences. And this was then connected through what we often hear about today with near-death experiences of traveling through the tunnel. The tunnel is the interior of the torus. It's that.
And this is what's explained as the higher life. This life here, the midlife, and the higher life, the passing through in the Book of the Dead. Everybody sees that, like he said, the chambers that were passed through in the ancient mythologies of death. It's a passing from a one life to a higher life. That's the way I see it.
That internal movement. And
Again,
there's
it's
an
all
initiation
spiritual.
bridge. Death is the walk across the bridge in the movement between the right brain perception and the left brain perception. The human mind and the structure of the brain is itself a microcosm of a higher dimensional structure that is the essence of initiation. And then when you get to the center, the crossing point in the human brain, that becomes the corpus callosum. And the way that we interact in the center point with BG3 harmonizing energy in the center, the effects of the two hemispheres. And
the colosseum, the coliseum, the auditorium, where your thoughts mix and mingle with your various different personalities. You centralize your thoughts through your various different emotions. That frontal lobe, it deals with both sides of the brain.
The human existence, physical existence, is like a snowflake that then anchors with the left brain perception into space-time on top of a primordial ocean of energy. This has to do with the pulse of time in the human body. So your heart is connected to a higher source that creates the pulse of the heart. So the breathing of the lungs and the pulse of the heart are in a particular rhythm that's entrained as something at a higher level. Once that gets off that rhythm, all types of health problems are created. The balance of the time pulse.
This is why we have all this new age breathing techniques coming out. Many people have never been taught to breathe. Many people breathe only through their mouth. Others only breathe through their nose. And that is, of course, Genesis 2:7, where he breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, telling us to breathe in through our nose. And not everything that goes in is vile, but what comes out.
And the heart pacemaker is connected to the weighing of the heart in the Hall of Judgment in ancient Egypt. That means that there is a master balancing method based on restoring the correct pulsation of time within the human body that connects to the lungs and the heart, but is also beyond the lungs and the heart. Simply creating correctly the sound of these things. The sound was the vibration itself. So that pronouncing correctly the name of this particular netter, Ma'ed, when you pronounce correctly the Ma'ed sound, it actually has the effect of harmonizing the time pulse inside the person's energy field. And by harmonizing the time pulse, can put them into resonance with higher forces. So this is a core part of uniting the different parts of the ancient Egyptian temple science.
Oops. I meant to pause. Okay.
So is there a second part?
Huh?
Is there a second part?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this link. I'm going to drop it in the chats, and everybody can check out the channel. I find it kind of experiential. It leads me to things that I can research to further my education, and that's what I'm truly looking for. So yeah, I'm hoping everybody will check it out and see that we live in a world that is very harmonic if we allow it to harmonize us. We have to learn how to agree with our environment, and that includes the people around us. You know, we have to learn how to deal with people like Mitch and Jack and Paul, Z, me. I know I'm one of them. It's like I was telling DD214 or chat. I've had a major anger issue throughout my life. But if you saw me back in my younger days, you would see the great improvement I've made. I go around smacking people upside the head with shovels. I'll stab them right in the fucking hand with a fork if I want to. I've never had any problem with that area. Now I see the problem. So I'm working on it. That's all we can do. So we really have to realize that we are, just like Paul says, I'm you. You know, I see your distaste. I see your distrust. I see the love. I see the kindness. I see the caring. I see it all because I'm looking for every bit of truth. And people do that in their actions. So what do you got, damsel?
I think you're making a lot of headway. I've seen you over the last few months get better control over that outburst. But I understand it. I like you said, we are each other, and I have never gone to the links that you have probably, but I've been angry. You know, I know what that kind of just wanting to end somebody at one point. But yeah, it's our actions, our heart. I was just going to ask you, have you ever had a near-death experience?
You could say a few.
Okay.
Like I said, my life has been like you wouldn't believe. I had
Mine.
Despite, and this tells you how deceived we can be or how hurt we can be by our own family. Yet that want for that family member is so strong that when I was a kid, my dad, my biological father, wanted me to quit playing with matches. He come home in one of his drunken stupors, strapped my hand, 2:00 in the morning, woke me out of bed, strapped my hand when he heard about it. Didn't hear about it till he got home. Mom told him. And he was just sick of it. So he strapped my hand to a board and stuck it in a furnace. You know, there are hard lessons in life, people. I would hope that we would learn to try to make them a little bit easier. And that's been one of my faults. Like I said, I used to go around smacking people in the head with a shovel. No problem. I don't have a problem with getting violent. My problem has always been loving people. So I tell you today, I know my duty is to love you, but I also know my duty to love you is not to just be nice and kind and tutti frutti and all that. I'm going to treat you
No.
like my brother with respect and tell you, hey, you're looking stupid. If I have to hang around with you the rest of my life, I don't want you making me look stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
You know, it's one of those things we've got to learn in life sooner or later. Otherwise, you're going to end up like poor Jack all by yourself, chasing people
Yeah.
away.
And that's exactly what I see for him in his future. And like I said, I've lived with a narcissist and I've dealt with them, and that's what they do. They end up completely alone.
Yeah.
It's not good for the human heart. We're meant to be around people. This toroidal field, that's why they separated us by 6 feet, so that we wouldn't interact like we're
Yes.
supposed to. That's why they covered our face,
Yeah,
so we couldn't talk to each other anymore. They did it for a reason.
Yeah, they do.
They wanted to disconnect us
Yeah,
all.
they do things because they do these things because they see the higher resonance coming. They're preparing for it. You know, they know that in order to keep control over the people that are in dissent and are making things very public by creating their own sites and showing other people how to act and behave and write letters properly, Jack, to the right people, Jack, at the right times with the right language, Jack, just like Paul showed his nice little language in his little letter to the courts, letting them know that you're violating the very trust that you're trying to espouse to the people. You know, that's how you get them. So I have had to learn that through my own experiences, and I'm still learning it. As you can see, like I said, it's very ingrained. I was doing it for 50 years.
Yeah.
50 fucking years before my mom looked me in the face and said, Keith, the police are your authority. And I had to detach myself from her just as much as they detached me from them by calling me a lunatic and telling me to change my last name. Goodness gracious. Why would you adopt me to turn around and tell me at 50 years of age to change my name? Do you really think you changed my name? No, you changed me. Get it? This is what we've got to realize in our lives. We have to accept change as it comes in life. And if we get stagnant in that, we end up like Jack, lazy motherfuckers.
Yeah, get stuck in a loop, eternal loop with no change. Yeah.
So anyway, I really wish more people would join me on the panel. So next time, again, always an open panel, and I will hope for more. But as we grow, that will grow as too. So I'm not disappointed. I'm just urging others to join me. I really like a bigger crowd. There is enough for 10 on the panel, so enjoy it while you can, because I do think I put out a good venue, and we do have fun on here. So even though
it's excellent. I wish people would join it.
Yeah, and it'll be a regular thing on Sunday nights. Me and Jeff Pizer, he agreed last night that he would be willing to be a co-host and help run these shenanigans and help pull people into a motivational aspect of realizing what they're telling us in the various different venues, video, audio, the news, the politics, the world events. They're telling us, and we just have to learn how to pay attention. We have to be able to see what they're telling us. So a lot of times people get caught up in the hype. Like I said, they sit in front of that boob tube and they want to watch somebody else's dramatic life because theirs is so inane and inept. I haven't watched TV in I don't know how long. We very rarely watch any movies. We like to do our research on the thing. She does watch her shorts and stuff, but that's her. But you see me, I'm always on here. I'm always doing research. Been doing it for straight 7 years, over 20,000 hours, more than most attorneys. So, and I'm not boasting. I'm not saying I know anything more than anybody else. I'm just saying I'm diligent at what I do. And if I find anything or need to do any more research, I'm Johnny on the spot. I'm not the one that's going to hold back and dismiss anything anybody else says that's new to me or anything. I'm going to graciously accept it and ingrain it in my thoughts to go search it. I want to learn. I don't know what everybody else's problem is.
Well, what
But
you say, that's what's helped you kick what you're kicking now. Your health problems now have caused you to research new things again. Because that's what it did to me when I was sick. To get well, you have to be able to anything you do in your life, to do anything to progress. If anything comes up or changes, you have to be able to research. You have to be able to go teach yourself to learn again and be a lifelong learner.
yes,
That's what I always wanted to be,
yeah,
a lifelong learner. I don't want to stop. I love it. And as long as it's
yeah,
seeking truth, good.
yeah, you've got to be able to appreciate learning and know how to learn. That is something people don't have a concept of. You have to know how to learn. You have to have that open-mindedness. And people say they have an open mind, but they don't. They don't. Otherwise, they would learn as much as they possibly could. So anyway, again, thanks everybody.
Triggering.
Yep.
You have a good.
That's what I like about Paul's. It helps me recognize my triggers.
Me too. Yeah.
I need people. So anyway, I'm done for the night. Appreciated everybody. It didn't last as long as I thought it would, but again, that's because I want big panels. So we didn't have that, and I thought there'd be more discussion. But as we grow, and like I said, most of them are going to be movies, but I'm going to bring in videos like this and audit videos and things like that are going to be shorter. So they're not going to be the long movie reviews, so it won't go so late into the nights.
Okay.
So think about that, and I hope to see everybody again next time.
Thank you.
How about you?
See you later, Keith.
All right. Good night, everybody. Love and peace.
I'm good.
And remember, I love you because that's my job. I don't give a shit whether you love me back. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.